So I said that when I thought about today's topic, that it was just right before the Thanksgiving celebration, and didn't feel like talking too much about Thanksgiving or about giving thanks, and so I just kind of thought more about giving to ourselves and to others in times of difficulty. Because when I was reflecting about coming in here today, it was, like I say, over a month ago, and the conflict in Palestine and in Israel was still very fresh. So I personally was struggling a lot with that, and thinking in how the different ways on how our practice can help us bring healing to us, and so that's when I thought that giving, and we call it in our practice dāna, but giving or generosity is it could be such a good teacher, such a good teaching if we're intentionally looking for the lessons. It's just we have a lot of great talks, we have a lot of great teachers here, and we can talk a lot and give you we get a lot of information from our teachers, but for me personally, and like I said earlier, we have different ways of how we learn. And I think this is very common for us. The best way to really learn is to put into practice, to actually practice and intentionally dig in. What am I learning out of this? What is the lessons out of this, right? And Thich Nhat Hanh said that to practice generosity, it takes time. It takes a lot of time, but that it is a good use of our time to do that. And so, even learning to meditate, learning to come here takes time, and it's a good practice. And so, in our practice, and I'm going to go between dāna, generosity, or giving, just so you know, it's all the same. This is understood as this form of kindness, that comes from a part of compassion, right? When it really comes from that place, right? And so, for us to really understand, where is it coming, this that I want to give, and why am I giving? It's a good exploration. And it doesn't always have to be of a material thing. It could be in many different ways. As I was giving examples, when I started the giving that all of you have done to create this beautiful space here is one way of generosity. So it is practicing in every form, in every behavior that we do, even if we don't see it as a way of giving, or even if we don't see that it's coming out of compassion, because sometimes it doesn't. And that's the good part that we have to explore, and for us to learn. And when we are in moments of difficulty, or when we are witnessing or experiencing suffering, I find that giving can teach us a lot, and also help us to liberate from that suffering and from whatever ideas we're clinging of what suffering is or is not. And in that process, we can learn to heal ourselves, and if in the process we're able to heal ourselves, then we're also helping heal others, even if we don't see it or feel it. A simple act can really go very far. So it's not. We can start thinking about, how this practice is going to benefit me. Right? We come and sit here and how is this going to help me? What do I need? What is my intention? But if we do go a little deeper, then we realize that benefit isn't just for us, but it's also for others. And so looking for that, so that we can understand it in all of our actions, can help us, especially in moments where we feel isolated or separated. And so during moments where we see others who are suffering and we feel that we may not be able to do much or anything, or don't know what to do, it could be, we could try and practice giving in whatever form we're able to do, to give. In times when, especially during holidays, it's very common, we may feel, that isolation too, because there's this idea of what we're supposed to feel, the joy that we're supposed to feel. And we may find conflict sometimes in feeling joyful or enjoying something because others are suffering. So bringing that act of giving could be a practice to find that connection and to understand that. And again, it could be in every action that we do. So, when I say, if you see somebody buy the coffee, say hello and smile. That's giving. Giving and smile. And we may never really know how far that smile may go for the other person that we're giving. Right? But the idea is to explore, what am I learning from this? How is it that this is helping me to be, to give a smile? I came in and gave her a hug. And the hug was actually for me, but I gave it to her, right? And she's like, oh, that's what I needed. And I actually needed the hug too. But there was just such a beautiful moment. Don't know her story, doesn't know mine, but just to feel that. We gave each other a hug, and it was just like, wow. It just feels so nourishing. Don't know how far that hug will go, but for me, it's still keeping me warm in the heart. And so looking for that freedom that we can find when we give in any way, it doesn't have to be material things or something that when we intentionally practice, what can I give? What can I give? What can I offer today that I'm holding on to it? And also, what can just come freely, easy, like a hug? Like I say, well, if you're an introvert, see if you can come out of that place and say hello. So exploring, how can I feel, how can I give out of my comfort zone? When we are meeting those that are suffering, and the suffering is so big, so immense, and we feel helpless, right? there's some form of disconnection by not recognizing that suffering. So that suffering of the other person is also our suffering. So thinking about how that suffering is connecting us is seeing how we're really one. And that suffering by feeling and witnessing other suffering is actually a way of us recognizing or interbeing and recognizing that we're made of the same. So instead of feeling helplessness, is what can I do in this moment where others are struggling? What can I do for them and for me? And sometimes that giving is just sitting and holding that tenderly. Sometimes that's good enough, and that's all we can do. And that's fine. That is totally okay. I mean, part of giving is it's also like the cornerstone of social activism, which in our mind is usually this idea of social activism or community activism, in making sure that we all have, that all of our basic needs are met, whether it's health, education, housing, food. And so that's a good beginning. But then there's the other layer under that we have this expectation on how things should be or what it should be. And so we may volunteer our time to do something or to help. And so that is another invitation to practice and see why. What is it that I want? Am I giving because I feel that this is something that also benefits others as well as me? Am I giving because I need the connection with others? Right? Am I giving because I want to be recognized? And there's no right or wrong. There's not judging in finding the answer. Is simply understanding and learning from that experience, and seeing where are we clinging. Right? What views are we clinging? What are we holding tight? Really tight to this is how things should be. So if we have a view of how the world should be or what's right or wrong, examining that view, I believe that this group is right or this group is wrong. Yeah, we may believe that. But how is our views, how our attaching to those views continues to bring suffering to us or to others, is an opportunity for us to see if we can loosen up a little bit. That doesn't mean that we have to turn into the side that we disagree or that we are wrong, or that the other group we may think that they are wrong. It's simply recognizing and seeing how this group or this person has a view and I have a different view. And as humans, as kings, as we hold different views, and we can be together and held each other with care and respect, even when we don't agree in the same way. And maybe to put that into another context in terms of action is when we give, for example, I'll just maybe use an example. If we decide to volunteer in a food bank and hand the food to people, right? Just throw the cans on the bag for people to go. What a nice gesture, like we're spending the day to give, right? But the gesture of just throwing without even making a connection and giving the smile to the other person may completely just kind of erase the other good intentions that brought us, right? But when we bring together that compassion that brought us to dedicate our day or time in a food bank with doing the human connection, with seeing eye to eye and feeling and giving in the same way that we would like to receive, and erasing that separation between the giver and the receiver, then there comes that union. So even though that, we may not need that bag of food for ourselves, right? But we're simply just leveling our humanity with the other person. And so I just kind of felt like in times where we are receiving so much suffering in the news, and it feels so far away, or I may not know what to do, and instead just not completely shut off. That's okay. It may be part of taking care of yourself, right? It's okay. But it's also important to recognize this is what I need to take care of myself, and what are other ways where I am helping to free myself from suffering and helping others also. So yeah, I was thinking how sometimes we think that we're being very generous, and I had an example that I wanted to share with you. A friend of mine, her birthday is today, and last week, every year, she has, we go on a boat, the few boats, and celebrate it there. And for some reason, she was just getting all complicated about it, and I thought, okay, don't stress out. Let's just get together at my house. And she's like, oh, you're so generous. That's so great. Yeah, I'm going to be teaching, but just come into the house and take over, and I'll join. The party was supposed to start at 6. But then yesterday, okay, so who's gonna order the food? And I was trying to plan who's coming, and tomorrow I'm gonna be busy, I won't have time. And at the last minute, it was all changed, and decided to meet at a restaurant. And I was just feeling really uncomfortable with that, and I go, well, I was really giving my house and giving my place. Because I really felt that she was being very stressed about reserving the boat and all of that. And I sat with that discomfort, why is this bothering me? And I found a list of things why it was bothering me. Right? But then when I came down to the list, I realized that that generosity actually was coming out of convenience. I wanted it to have it in my house because I didn't want to hassle to go to any other place. I just wanted it for my own comfort, and then I realized, now I'm going to have to hurry up, go and change and do this and that. I go, oh yeah, that wasn't really genuine. Yeah, there was a part of it that was generous, right? But there was some self-interest, right? There was an attachment of something that I wanted for me. It wasn't all about her. For her, there was also sometimes it took me all afternoon yesterday until this afternoon, almost 24 hours to just oh yeah, it wasn't about her, it was about me. So that's my teaching about how I thought I was being generous by offering my space, when actually I was just being selfish. So I'm wondering if is if some of you could think of different forms of generosity that you have received, of dāna that you have received in not a material way, and how that felt without attachments.